And we are back on the Country Coach project number 6,000, I don't know, 7,000, whatever. Anyway, it's a motorhome and the projects are going to add up no matter what you do. Today's project is going to be, so we've had an issue on the motorhome that we've just kind of dealt with for a very long time. It is what it is. It's the generator. So when the coach sits for about a week, the generator just does not want to start. I mean, it is a booger to get it to start. So what you do is, boom, it cranks up, it runs, it dies. Cranks up, it runs, it dies. Cranks up, it runs, it dies. You see where this is going. All right. It takes exactly 17 cranks for it to stay running. I've always suspected it was a fuel issue. And it doesn't matter whether you prime the fuel system first, whatever. It just does not matter. If it sits for more than a week, it is what it is. If we crank it every couple of days, bam, just like butter. Fires right up. We've had no problems with it staying running. Unfortunately, our generator is not on a slide out. So it is a little bit of a booger to get to for anything to do on it. But anyway, I suspect that it is the fuel lines. I believe there's probably a leak, or not necessarily a fuel leak, right? But it just gets a little bit of air in there. It loses its prime. That is what it is. The end that goes onto our generator has been off of there several times. We've had to replace the fuel pumps on this thing about 4 times. We do about 2 fuel pumps a year. Nobody's ever really been able to figure that out. They just fail. We keep changing them. They are genuine Onan Cummins fuel pumps, so we've already been through that. Anyways, it's super easy to change, so it just really doesn't bother me necessarily anymore. But taking the fuel lines on and off those barbs so many times, the ends have gotten kind of fretted, the hose clamps, you know that crap. It just never really works out right anyways. So we're just going to replace all of the fuel lines. We're going to go to a much better line, do away with all the clamps and everything like that. I have the front tires off, whole nother project. Anyways, you can see the fuel lines. Let me grab a flashlight for you here right quick and show you where they're at. I've kind of jumped ahead. I didn't really video it necessarily in the correct order, but anyways, right through that little triangle right there, up inside of there is where the fuel lines are. It is virtually impossible to get to those from out here, and there is a solid steel plate right up in there that is welded to the frame and everything like that. And these Country Coach frames are built like tanks, man. Anyways, there's no way to get to this. But if you look, well, on our particular model, we have dual base slides here. We're 40 foot. Inside this front slide right here, there is an access panel right there. It is held on with about a dozen screws. There's the panel laying over there. You pull that panel off, voila, there is all your fuel lines, okay? Let's crawl up in here and get you a little better look. Oh, if I could just have somebody roll me in and out of here, it'd be nice. So, the big copper lines right here, those are for your engine. These two right here, these 2 little back ones, this one right here, this one right here, those will go to your hydro-hot. And then up there in the front, there is 2 more. Let me crawl up in here even more. Right there and right, well, there. Those are the 2 that go to your generator. So this is how you can access those. You can reach up in there. Whoops, I just dropped my flashlight down in there. I'll have to get that out. Anyways, you pull this access panel off right here. Boom, there is the access to the fuel lines. I do have, as you can see, the light right through there. I have that inside panel off over there in the wheel well, just for light. And that's where the fuel level sending unit is. So if you ever have to access that, that's the panel you pull off. That's passenger side front. So anyways, we're going to hop out of here. We're going to talk about the fuel line that we're going to use instead of this old rubber stuff. I mean, it's been around for a century, but I mean, you know, it works. But anyway, we're going to do away with that. We're going to go to something much better, something that will outlast the rest of this coach and get these fuel lines replaced. Hey guys, my name is AJ. This is Denise and Allie. Welcome to the adventure we call life.
Get along down the road. We got a long, long way to go. Scared to live, scared to die. We ain't perfect, but we try. Get along while we can. Always give love the upper hand. Paint a wall, learn to dance. Call your mom, buy a boat.
All right, so before we get too far into this project, we're going to talk about the materials that we're going to use. And you see my shirt? It does say older than Google. It's probably backwards, but yesterday was my birthday, and yes, I am older than Google. Anyways, the hose that we're going to use is this right here. This is made by AeroQuip. It's really expensive. It's about $10 a foot. But it is hands down 1,000 times better than traditional fuel line that you'll ever use on these things. And I want to do this once and be done with it. So I chose to use this. I have used this hose a lot in the industry that I work in, so I know how rugged and tough it is. This particular hose is a hydraulic type hose. It is diesel safe. It has a working pressure of about 3,000 PSI, so we should be plenty safe for a fuel system for a generator. Also, it is rather large OD wise because there's a lot going on inside of here. But the ID on this is just 1/4 inch. Plenty of supply for the generators on these coaches. So I'm going to try to get this up here pretty close, and it's going to be kind of hard to see, but there's the hose right there. It is rather thick. Okay, so what's going on in here is we have the traditional just inner hose, hydraulic rated, again 3,000 PSI. It is diesel fuel safe, and then around that is another jacket, and then over all of that is a stainless steel braiding, and then over the top of all that is this other outer jacket. This stuff is extremely tough and rugged. I mean, you can rub it on things forever and it will not chafe through it. And if it ever does, it's got to go through the stainless steel braided jacket after that. And if it ever does get through that, it has to go through the additional jacket before it can actually get to the hose itself. I'll be right back. Sorry. Okay. Had something going on there. Anyways, I purchased this through Spartan Industrial and Marine. Again, they are a marine supply house. They carry all this stuff. You could probably Google shop this stuff. Older than Google. You could probably Google shop this stuff and maybe get a little cheaper than $10 a foot, but I don't know. Anyway, it's just expensive, guys. That's just all there to it. But there's a reason. I mean, this stuff is crazy. The really good thing about this stuff is the fittings that you put on here are reusable. So if you ever did, say, cut the line or have something happen to it, you don't have to buy all the fittings again. All you'd have to do is get some replacement hose. The fittings are pretty kind of self-explanatory. If you've ever done any kind of AN line stuff with braided lines and stuff like that, you've already done all this. But it's basically a 2-piece fitting here. It comes assembled. It looks just like that. All right, these are JIC swivel. All right, anyway, you undo the collar on here just like that. This collar is threaded internally. It will go down over the hose. You will thread it down until it bottoms out. It is tricky because of the way the ends are. We will tape this and chop it to get it flush. Anyway, you thread that down onto there. It will then leave this inner hole, which is also threaded. And then this is the internal line. It does fit really well inside the hose. But once this piece is screwed onto the hose, you will then lube this up rather liberally, and it will actually go in there, and this has captured your hose right here. It can't push the hose out, and then through a lot of effort, you will double wrench it, and you will literally thread this piece all the way in. It is forcing its way into that hose until it absolutely bottoms out. It will not come apart. I don't care what you do. It will rip this stuff to pieces before it will pull this fitting out of this hose. All right. And then, again, like I say, these are JIC. So no more hose clamps, no more junk like that. Our generators are 1/8 inch NPT on the fittings on the generator. So I bought these JIC to NPT 1/8 fittings. And once we get everything together, these will simply go together just like that. All right. And again, this will not leak. This is hydraulic. All right. You tighten this down, it will not leak. No hose clamps. No fuel line to get all fretted up and frayed up. No rotting of the fuel line or nothing like that. Again, I chose this stuff because I don't want to ever have to do this again. And if I do have to do this again, then I don't want to have to rebuy all the fittings. Replaceable hose. And if for something happened, say way out here in the middle like this, right? They make unions. You cut the bad piece out, screw some fittings on there, stick a union in there. You're good to go. You don't have to replace it all. So like I say, it is a little pricey. I know that going into this, but again, I mean, for fuel, probably nothing better out there, and just want to be safe. So anyways, let's get on the actual project here and start trying to get this thing routed up in there and get the old lines out and see what we can make happen. I wanted to add that I had pulled this panel out from the wheel well right here to have some extra light in here. And you know, like I say, you can access your fuel level sender through there, but there's also a panel on the other side inside the slide out bay that you can remove. I'll show you that also. Nothing to do with the project we're working on, but just more information. You can remove this panel also from the inside, and the fuel level sender is right there as well. So that's what all these access panels are for, is to gain inside for the fuel tank. Middle one being for fuel lines, this one being for fuel level sender, and that one being for, I don't know, we'll figure it out later. Well, there's really no good way to get started on this other than just to, well, get started. So we're just going to start on this left side line right here. We'll get it loose. We'll trace it back to the generator to make sure we have, you know, we want to keep our input and our output line to the generator on the correct line. So we're just going to start on this one, work our way back towards the generator, and get the fittings changed out and get the new line put in. So we just crawled up underneath the coach here. We're looking at the back side of the generator here, the front being out there. This is the back side. These are your main battery terminal connections from your house batteries to crank your generator. These are the fuel lines. Logic would try to tell us that the left side line goes to the driver's side on the fuel tank, right side goes to passenger, but you know this is a motorhome, so logic is thrown out the door. So we're just going to start here with the left line, try to work our way back and figure out, you know, we don't want to get these crossed up while we're changing them out. So we're just going to change one at a time. So we're just going to get this one off and then start back tracing it, trying to figure out where it goes to on the fuel tank. Okay, so we got our main, this is our main line. This is what goes to the fuel pump from the tank to the fuel pump on the generator. And as luck would have it, driver's side is driver's side, passenger side, passenger side. They match from the generator to the fuel tank. So it makes it a little easier. Anyways, we're not gonna cut this exactly to length as it was before, because we're going to do a little bit different routing just to help protect the line a little bit more. And as expensive as this stuff is, we don't want to waste any. So we're going to get one of the ends put on here, and then we will route it into the bay where it connects up to the tank, and then we'll route it down to the generator. We'll mark it and we'll cut it at the end on the generator so we can save as much hose as we absolutely can. All right, so we have just taped up. It's kind of hard to make that thing focus on there, but focus. Anyway, we have taped up very tightly along the end of the hose there. We're going to cut that off to get all that fretting and fraying off the end and try to keep it as nicely and compact as we can to the hose, and then we'll work on getting the actual fitting put on it. right, so we got the end cut off there, and we will untape it now. All right, the way that thing works is this collar will screw down over the hose. We're gonna go ahead and put some lube on it. This collar is left-handed thread, so it's gonna be backwards. All right, and then just tighten it all the way down till it bottoms out, just like that. All right, and then what we do is a whole lot of more lube. This end is swedged. It will go down into the hose. This thread, the inside of this collar is threaded. It will grab a hold of it. It is tight. It is very hard to get it started, but it's going to thread down into this collar. Once it gets inside the hose, this thread is going to grab a hold of the hose also, and it is going to get very, very tight. Just like that. Then we will hand tighten it till this bottoms out onto the collar. You are more than likely not going to push that piece in there and thread it by hand. You pretty much have no choice but use an impact. Like I say, we'll just finish tightening it up until they just bottom out and contact each other. All right, there you go. Let's get that thing to focus on there. And that is how it's going to look. The focusing is terrible, but that is basically a compression type fitting almost. I mean, but the end barb is screwed into the hose as well as to the collar. The collar is left-handed thread. This is standard right-handed thread. There is no way for that dude to come loose. The good thing is if you do have a problem with the hose, these fittings are reusable. Just take them back apart. All right, so moving along on getting the replacement hose back in there, we are absolutely going to do away with the barbed hose fittings. There's just, I mean, they work okay, but they are just not as near as good as what we're going to be putting in there. So we're going to be getting these fittings out, and we are going to convert those to JIC. All right, so we are just laying directly under the coach, looking straight up towards the floor. And as you can see, we have routed the new fuel line back through the same mounting grommets, back over the top of all the components, all the way back there, and then down to the tank. So, like I say, we pulled all the bulk through. We measured this off to right here where it connects up. We left a little slack so that we can push it up so that it's not just resting on the top of the generator and all the brackets and stuff up there. So now we're going to get the fitting changed out over here to the JIC fitting, and we'll get the main supply line hooked back up to the generator. So guys, this brings us to a very important segment in the video. We might as well go ahead and take the time so we can talk about the sponsor of today's video. The sponsor of today's video is not A1C, it is not Surfshark, it is not Onyx, it is not A1A, it is not absolutely nobody. We have no sponsors. We do this because we want to share information with you guys so that you'll know what you're getting into, so that maybe you can avoid the mistakes that we have made. So as I always say, the sponsor of today's video is hard work. None of those guys out there that are getting paid to say something nice about a product that they don't even use. Okay, so that's enough about the sponsor of today's video. But this is a good time to talk about something very, very important to this project, and that is sealing components for the threads that we're working with. Okay, normally in any given circumstance, not normally, I'm going to say 100% of the time, I absolutely refuse to use Teflon tape. It is the worst thing that is ever made in the industry. If not used very carefully, it can cause a lot of problems, especially when you have fittings like this. If you put Teflon tape on your thread and you screw it into a fitting like this, it will push this open like hydraulics and crack it. That's why I do not use Teflon tape. Okay, normally 100% of the time I would recommend this product right here. It is called SPEC. It is made by Swagelok. Swagelok is the maker of stainless steel fittings and lubricants for fittings such as that. This is an anaerobic pipe thread sealant with PTFE. The industry that I work in for 25 years, I work in the oil and gas industry, energy production. This is all we have ever used on our hydraulics, our pneumatics, pipe fittings, everything. This is all we use in the industry to seal pipe threads. We do not have failures. We don't have failures for a reason, because we use an anaerobic pipe thread sealant. This is a liquid. Essentially, it's almost like a gel, okay? It looks just like that. However, in this situation where we are working with very, very small threads like this can get really messy, okay? So that is when I turn to a material like this. Now you're going to say, well, that's Teflon tape. Wrong. This is not Teflon tape. This is made by a company called Blue Monster. And the first thing you're going to notice is, boom, it's blue. That's because it's not Teflon tape. This material right here contains this stuff right here, and that is what makes this blue. That is a thread sealant and a thread lubricant, okay? When you're using dissimilar metals like we are right here, where you're using stainless steel and a brass fitting, this material right here, which is this right here, coated, all right, acts as a thread lubricant, okay? Dissimilar metals with Teflon tape, when you screw them together and you start taking them back apart, it will cause seizing and you can tear these threads up. This stuff with the Blue Monster stuff in it, PTFE, liquid thread sealant, will prevent that from happening, and it also adds as a sealant against leaks. So again, to overall that, I highly recommend using the liquid. However, the threads are small, so we're going to turn to Blue Monster, which is not Teflon tape. There. That's only my opinion after doing this for 25 years. Take it for what you want. All right, so this is what we're going to end up with, a nice JIC style fitting with actual hydraulic style hose. It is diesel safe, and it is much better looking than that over there with just a hose clamp stuck onto it. Routed very nicely back up through all the fittings, routed along the cable ends up there, so very nice. So all we got to do now is repeat for the return line that comes from the generator back to the fuel tank, and we will get this little project close to being done. All right, so there it is. All we did was repeat for the additional line, and I don't know if it's just the heat or what, delusional, but I had the lines actually backwards. This is the supply line that comes from the tank. Let me get in here. So it comes from the tank, through the fuel pump, through the fuel filter, up to the injection rail. And then it comes back out right here and returns to the tank. So the passenger side pickup is the supply, The driver's side tap is the return line. But anyway, they're all hooked up. All we need to do now is do a whole lot of purging. Anyway, do all that, try to get all the air purged out of the lines, get them all cleaned. I blew the lines out before we did the final connection, so there's no trash in the line at all. And if there does happen to be something in there, which I highly doubt, anyway, our fuel filter will catch it. So anyway, we're going to get the lines all purged. We'll get the generator fired up right quick, and we can make sure we don't have no leaks. But I'm not really worried about leaks because these connections do not leak. Fuel pump is nice and quiet now, so let's see what happens. There we go. We'll just let it run for a couple of minutes. As you can see, I shut the breaker off. I'm not worried about it kicking on right now. We've still got way too much stuff strode all over the place here, but we're gonna let it run for a few minutes. No leaks. Get over here and crawl back up in our bay right quick here and check the return lines. Looks good. It just kicked down to idle. Yeah, that is awesome. Looks great. Like I say, normally before, if it ever set for any amount of time, it was just a booger to get it to start, and I'm sure it was just air getting into the lines through those terrible connections. So even with replacing the lines and having to purge them all, it started better than it never has before. So that is awesome. We'll go ahead and kick the breaker on so it can come up, ramp up the speed. Give it time for the inverter to kick in. Inverter charger. I just went back to idle again. Nice. All we got to do now is finish our little project we got going on in here, which really all it was. There's nothing wrong with anything under here. We're just going to pressure wash, steam clean the heck out of all these inner liners, get our covers sealed back up, put those back on, and we're going to undercoat all this stuff again in here. There it is. It just kicked up. Charger just kicked in. Anyway, you can see, I mean, just through the years, all the road grime and rocks and rain and everything beating the heck out of these inner fenders in here. So we're just going to recoat all those. Doing good. We'll go ahead and let it run, like I say, for a few minutes. We're going to go ahead and service it while we got everything kind of opened up. New fuel. Well, I should have done the fuel filters first. No. I don't want to try, because I wanted anything that's in there to get caught in that other fuel filter. So anyway, we're going to change fuel filters, the air filters, change the oil in it. I do need to do a coolant service on it as well, but coolant looks good though, but I've just never changed the coolant since I've had it. So anyway, there we go. Full fuel line replacement on the Onan quiet diesel generator on the country coach. Nothing but get everything put back together now.